It's not just what you say that matters. It's the quiet permission you give them to ignore you. You might think you're setting a strong boundary, but your subconscious is sending a signal that reads, "My words are negotiable." This is why people ignore you. We are all taught to be polite, but politeness, past the age of 40, often becomes self-sabotage. It hides a deep-seated fear of conflict. Today, we're exposing the 3 subtle, seemingly innocent things you do every day that invite disrespect. If you stop doing the 3rd one, you will instantly regain your peace and your presence. Let's dive into the first subtle mistake you need to eliminate today. Let's start with the most insidious one, the words that shrink you. Listen to how this sounds. "I just wanted to ask if maybe you could," or "I almost finished that project," or "I just need a minute of your time." Every time you use just or almost, you are signaling that your request, your accomplishment, or your need is minor. You are preemptively apologizing for taking up space. This habit is rooted in what psychologists call imposter syndrome. But it goes deeper than that. It's a lifetime of being taught not to look too big, too demanding, or too much. And for women in midlife, this is especially potent because we've spent decades perfecting the art of being palatable. But here is what happens when you say, "I just wanted to check in about that deadline." The other person hears this isn't really important, so you can ignore it if you want. Dr. Valerie Young, an expert on imposter syndrome, says, "Minimizing language is a form of self-protection, but it actually invites the very rejection you're trying to avoid." The fix is simple but requires practice. Eliminate the softeners. Instead of "I just need this by Friday," say "I need this by Friday." Instead of "I almost have it done," say "I'll have it completed by end of day." Instead of "Can I just ask you something," say "I have a question for you." Your boundary script should be direct and complete. Respect is not given to people who try to shrink themselves. The second subtle mistake is one I see everywhere: the need to justify your boundaries. Picture this. Someone invites you to something you don't want to do. You say, "I can't make it," but then you keep talking. "I have this headache, and my daughter has practice, and I really need to catch up on sleep, and my schedule has been crazy, and honestly, I'm just so overwhelmed right now." If you give someone an elaborate reason, you are inviting them to debate your reasons, not respect your decision. A study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2020 found that over-explaining is directly linked to what researchers call approval anxiety. We give excessive details because we fear the other person will think we're selfish, cold, or uncaring. So we pile on reasons to prove we're still good. But here's the trap. When you over-explain, your no is hidden in an apology. Your boundary becomes negotiable because you've essentially said, "Here are all the reasons I can't do this. And if any of these reasons aren't good enough for you, I might reconsider." Dr. Harriet Breaker, psychologist and author, once said, "The moment you start defending your no, you've already lost the boundary." Think about how powerful people set boundaries. They don't explain. They don't apologize. They simply state what is. The fix: use complete sentences that don't invite debate. Instead of explaining your entire schedule, say, "That won't work for me." Instead of justifying why you can't help, say, "I'm unavailable for that." Instead of apologizing for your limitations, say, "I don't have capacity for that right now." Notice there's no cruelty here. There's no rudeness. There's just clarity. And clarity is kind because it doesn't waste anyone's time. Now we're getting to the big one. The one that undermines everything else you do. The moment you drop eye contact, you drop your power. Your eyes communicate your emotional status. If you look down, look away, or quickly break eye contact when setting a boundary, your body is screaming, I am not fully committed to what I just said. This is your biggest self-sabotage error. You can have the perfect words, the perfect tone, and the perfect posture. But the minute you drop your eyes, they sense your doubt. A study published in Psychological Science in 2020 found that sustained eye contact is one of the strongest nonverbal indicators of confidence and commitment. The research showed that people who maintained eye contact for just 1 second longer after speaking were perceived as 40% more credible and trustworthy than those who looked away immediately. Here's what's happening neurologically. When you break eye contact prematurely, you're activating what neuroscientists call the appeasement response. It's a submissive signal left over from our evolutionary past that says, I don't want conflict. I'm backing down. And the other person picks up on that signal instantly, even if they don't consciously realize it. Dr. Amy Cuddy, social psychologist at Harvard, explains, nonverbal displays of power and dominance are about presence, not aggression. Holding eye contact is about saying I am here, and I mean what I say. The fix is what I call the power hold. Maintain eye contact for 1 extra second after you finish your sentence. It establishes that you are finished speaking and that your statement stands. It's not aggressive. It's not staring someone down. It's simply not being the first to look away. Practice this in low-stakes situations first. When you order coffee, when you answer a question in a meeting, when you tell your partner you need some time alone. Hold the eye contact just 1 second longer than feels comfortable. That discomfort is your boundary muscle getting stronger. So why do we do these things? Why do women, especially women in midlife, engage in these subtle acts of self-sabotage? The answer lies in what psychologists call socialized femininity. From childhood, many of us were trained to be accommodating, pleasant, and non-threatening. We learned that our value came from being liked, not from being respected. In fact, it often intensifies, because at this stage of life, many of us are navigating massive transitions, empty nests, career pivots, relationship changes, aging parents. We're already feeling vulnerable. So we double down on the behaviors that once kept us safe. Being small, being apologetic, being invisible. A longitudinal study from the University of Michigan, published in 2023, tracked women aged 45 to 60 over a 5-year period and found that those who struggled most with boundary setting reported the highest levels of role ambiguity. They weren't sure who they were allowed to be anymore. Here's what happens. You spent decades being the caretaker, the peacekeeper, the one who makes everything smooth for everyone else. And now you're trying to reclaim your time, your energy, your life. But the old programming kicks in. Who am I to say no? Who am I to take up space? Who am I to put myself first? That internal voice is the root of these 3 subtle habits. The just and almost are apologies for existing. The over-explaining is a plea for permission. The I avoidance is a retreat from your own power. And here's the really important part. These habits don't just affect how others treat you. They affect how you see yourself. Every time you minimize your words, over-explain your boundaries, or look away when you should stand firm, you're reinforcing the belief that you don't deserve respect. You're training your own nervous system to see yourself as less than. Dr. Kristen Neff, a leading researcher on self-compassion, found that women who consistently engaged in self-minimizing behaviors showed increased activation in the brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, during moments of self-assertion. In other words, your brain starts to perceive your own boundaries as dangerous. But it doesn't have to be this way. These are learned behaviors, and what's learned can be unlearned. Here's what happens when you start eliminating these 3 subtle habits. First, you'll notice a shift in how people respond to you. They'll interrupt you less. They'll push back less. They'll simply comply. Not because you've become intimidating, but because you've become clear. Clarity is magnetic. Uncertainty is repellent. Over time, something even deeper happens. You start to feel different in your own body. That constant low-level anxiety, the one that whispers, "Did I say that okay? Are they mad at me? Should I have explained more?" It starts to quiet down. Neuroscientists call this emotional regulation through embodied practice. When you consistently pair your words with congruent body language, when you say no, and your eyes, your posture, and your tone all agree, you're actually rewiring your prefrontal cortex to associate boundary setting with safety, not threat. A study from UCLA's Social Cognitive Neuroscience Lab in 2024 found that participants who practiced assertive communication with sustained eye contact showed decreased amygdala reactivity and increased activity in brain regions associated with self-confidence after just 4 weeks. This is not just about getting other people to respect you. This is about teaching your own nervous system that you are safe when you take up space. And as that happens, you'll notice something beautiful. The right people stay. The people who respected you all along feel relieved because now they know exactly where you stand. And the people who only liked you because you were easy to manipulate, they drift away. And that's not a loss. That's a liberation. Okay, let's recap what we covered today. 1. Stop using filler words like just and almost that minimize your presence and power. 2. Stop over-explaining your limits. An unexplained no is a complete sentence. 3. Master the power of eye contact. Hold it for an extra second after you finish speaking. These 3 subtle changes will transform how people perceive you and, more importantly, how you perceive yourself. Now, I need your help. Which of these 3 habits will you eliminate starting today? Tell me in the comments. Are you the person who over-explains? The just person? Or the one who looks away too early? I want to know, because your awareness is the first step to your transformation. And if this video resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and share it with others who need to hear this message. Because the truth is, we're all recovering from the need to please others in some way. And we need each other to remind us of our power. Remember, respect isn't earned by diminishing yourself. It's earned by standing firm. See you in the next video.